Music. Music is often defined as the finest of fine arts. But Indian music is not just an art, it is life itself. Music reflects emotions and experiences which are deeper, wider and older than the emotion or wisdom of any single individual. It is passionate without any loss of serenity. It is joy without exultation. It is sorrow without tears. It is the imitation of music in heaven, where the singer is a magician and the song a ritual, a sacred ceremony, an ordeal. An ordeal which is designed to set at rest the wheel of our imagination and senses, which alone hinders us from contact with reality. These sentiments unfailingly find clear echoes in the performances of the musicians of India, who took music as a journey into the soul and from the soul into the act of liberation. Of those who contributed to the celestial experiences of the community, the saintly musician Pandit Vishnu Digambar Paluskar will always be remembered as one who has enriched the inner lives of the people. For him, music was a vehicle to carry forth his innermost thoughts on men and matter and to commune with the divine.
Dr. Vishnu Paluskar, the 11th and only surviving child of Pandit Vishnu Digambar Paluskar, was born on May 28, 1921. He was only 10 when he lost his father. Deeply aware of his father's greatness, as the only evangelist of Hindustani classical music, the young Bapu, as he was affectionately called, determined to pursue his father's mission. Bapu took his early lessons in music from his father, after whose death he received further training successively from 3 leading disciples of Panditji. The first was Chintaman Rao Paluskar, his cousin, followed by a brief tutelage under Narayan Rao Vyas. Then came the fruitful period of training under Pandit Vinayakrao Patwardhan, which continued till 1942. When 14, Bapu made his mark as a major talent with his debut at the famous Harivallabh Sangeet Samaroh at Jalandhar and his subsequent performance at the All India Music Conference in Calcutta. He soon became indispensable at major musical events wherever they were held. He also became a broadcaster at the age of 16 and cut his first gramophone disc when he was only 22.
Paluskar was only 34 at the time of his death. Merely to say that his premature death brought a musical career of immense potential to a tragic end is not enough. Promise is perhaps just not the word for Paluskar. For even within that brief span of life, he had blazed a trail of glory as a pioneer in the post-freedom resurgence of Indian music, as a representative of the new race of young vocalists ready to shoulder the mantle of departing masters. रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम 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 रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन
प्राचीन काल से ही हमारे देश में संगीत को मात्र मनोरंजन का साधन न मानकर उसे नाद योग का ऊंचा पद दिया गया है। यहाँ तक कि नाद ब्रह्म की साधना में ही साक्षात ब्रह्मा, विष्णु और महेश की उपासना निहित मानी गई है। इसी कारण पंडित विष्णु दिगंबर पलुस्कर प्रभु प्राप्ति का सोपान मानकर ही नाद ब्रह्म के परम उपासक बने। पंडित जी श्री राम के अनन्य भक्त थे। विरासत के रूप में प्राप्त इसी राम भक्ति व नाद ब्रह्म की उपासना को जागृत जीवित रखने का श्रेय है उनके एकमात्र पुत्र पंडित दत्तात्रेय विष्णु पलुस्कर। जून सन 1935 की बात है। बापूराव अपने गुरु पंडित विनायकराव पटवर्धन के साथ पूना से लाहौर आए। एक दुबला पतला शर्मीला लड़का, पर आंखों में एक अजीब चमक, सदा मुस्कुराता मोहक चेहरा। गांधर्व महाविद्यालय लाहौर में प्रारंभिक संगीत शिक्षा के बाद जून 1936 में मैं पूना आ गया। गुरुवर्य पंडित विनायकराव पटवर्धन के निर्देशन में पूना के विद्यालय में मेरी संगीत शिक्षा आरंभ हुई। तब निकट संपर्क में आकर उनके साथ जो रिश्ता जुड़ा वह जीवन भर कायम रहा। रात के समय उनकी घंटों घंटों की तालीम और साधना मैंने स्वयं देखी और सुनी। शुरू में उनकी गायकी में गुरु की छाप पूरी तरह दिखाई देती थी, पर धीरे धीरे कली का पूर्ण विकास होता गया। शुद्ध वाणी व शुद्ध मुद्रा, ग्वालियर घराने के इन अनिवार्य तत्वों का पूरी तरह निर्वाह करते हुए अनेक घरानों व कलाकारों की खूबियों को आत्मसात कर उन्होंने अपनी सृजन प्रतिभा द्वारा एक अनोखी गायकी का निर्माण किया।
It was in 1955 that Paluskar died a sudden death. But I still mourn his loss, like so many other music lovers all over the country, who had the pleasure and privilege to listen to him in flesh and blood in those days. He was only 34 when he died. But he was something much more than an epoch maker in so many ways. But Paluskar, though a traditionalist by training, was progressive by his temperament and outlook. He allowed himself to be exposed to different styles and vogues which were exemplified by several leading gharanas of Hindustani music. And he set about the task of making his music eclectic, basically eclectic in its character. But at the same time, in spite of his short span of life, he has left a fairly rich legacy of his great music for the posterity and for those of generations yet unborn will be inspired by his music as much by the devoutness of temper and the charm of feeling which he brought to bear on his singing.
Paluskar was a man of simple living and clean habits. Unlike most other contemporaries of his times, one never saw him take pan, bidi or tobacco, much less liquor. His voice was not only his forte, but something much more. He was so simple and shy that his bearing often baffled his friends and perplexed strangers. But he could more than make it up by endearing himself to everyone by his innate courtesies and disarming disposition, as much as his music endeared him to the masses. Most of the time he was busy with his countrywide professional tours, so his young age and professional preoccupations obviously afforded him no opportunity to groom many disciples. There are a few singers like Sarat Sathe, Alindi Keskar, Sarojini Kulkarni, Padma Devi and Kamal Ketkar who received the benefit of his guidance from time to time.
मेरे गुरु राग पढ़ाते समय राग की पूरी जानकारी देते थे। वे राग एक दूसरे से किस प्रकार भिन्न है ये भी बहुत ही सरलता से और स्वयं गाकर स्पष्ट करते थे। राग विस्तार में आलाप, तान, बोलतानों का उपयोग किस ढंग से और कितनी मात्रा में होना चाहिए यह भी बताते थे।
At present the Paluskars live in Pune and just like their father they lead a simple life in a quite unassuming manner. It is ironical and sad that both his son and daughter did not take to music as a profession or hobby, though they are well settled in life.
It was Paluskar's singular distinction that he emerged as the first classical musician of the present century to overshadow the gharana concept and initiate the trend of eclecticism in the classical domain. His countrywide professional tours naturally brought him into constant contact with many leading lights of other gharanas. These served to broaden his Catholic outlook and widen his musical horizons. The result was such an uncanny synthesis of some of the best virtues of the classical singing styles of North India. This also incidentally explains why the rich variety of boltans and tans of the Agra and Atravali Jaipur gharanas also found eloquent expression in his khayal improvisations. One more facet must be mentioned, that was Paluskar's musicianship. Even though he was basically a product of scholastic education, he managed to steer clear of its dangerous limitations. Long years of training from great teachers at their music schools did not blunt his creative propensities, nor could it formalize his performing ability. He remained a performing artist from start to finish.
ये उस वक्त की बात है जब मैं फिल्म बैजू बौरा बना रहा था और उसमें आपकी आवाज़ बैजू के लिए मुझे चाहिए और तानसेन के लिए आमिर खान साहब की आवाज़ ले रहा हूँ। अगर आपकी इनायत हुई, आपका करम हुआ तो मैं कलाकार तो नहीं हूँ, कलाकार बन जाऊँगा छोटा मोटा। आपके आशीर्वाद से हंसने लगे, मेरी पीठ ठोकी, कह रहे हैं अच्छा कब रिकॉर्डिंग करना है। मैंने कहा साहब जब आप रिहर्सल कर लेंगे तैयारी हो जाएगी। तो उन्होंने कहा चलिए मैं आता हूँ कल रिहर्सल के लिए। रिहर्सल करने आए कारदार स्टूडियो में, वो आमिर खान साहब और दोनों बैठकर रिहर्सल करते रहे। जो जो ताने, जो सरगम, जो पलटे तय हुए थे, फिक्स हुए थे, वो सब पंडित जी ने लिख लिए साहब। और विष्णु दिगंबर के घराने का नोटिशन मैं ये कहने के लिए तैयार हूँ बड़े पुरजोर तरीके से कि उनके घराने का नोटिशन बहुत मजबूत नोटिशन है, बड़ा सही नोटिशन है। उन्होंने एक एक तान, एक एक मुर्की, एक एक गिटकरी, एक एक फंदा ऐसा लिखा कि स्टाफ नोटिशन के मुकाबले का वो नोटिशन मैंने मान लिया। जैसे कि पंडित भातखंडे जी का नोटिशन है, ऐसे ही विष्णु दिगंबर के घराने का नोटिशन भी है। लेकिन मुझे अफसोस है इस बात का कि वो नोटिशन ज्यादा मकबूल क्यों नहीं हुआ, लोगों ने क्यों नहीं फॉलो किया। खैर वो इस कदर डूब कर गाए, ऐसा यानी गाना उन पर सवार नहीं हुआ, वो गाने पर सवार हो गए। गाना ऐसा काबू में रख के उन्होंने जो गाया है साहब, और आखिर की वो तान जहाँ पत्थर पिघलता है उसके लिए तो साहब उन्होंने जो जान लड़ा दी उसके ऊपर। मैंने कहा पंडित जी यहाँ ये सिचुएशन है, वो पत्थर से धुआं यूं आएगा, पानी से धुआं, पत्थर पिघलने लगेगा, तो तान कायम रहना चाहिए। ऐसी गरारी की तरह गिटकरी घूमे गले में आपके, कहने लीजिए। और वो साहब उन्होंने किया। और मैं क्या अर्ज करूं, आज तक वो गाना लोगों के लिए जिंदा है। और मैं समझता हूं कि इसलिए नहीं वो जिंदा है कि मैंने कंपोज किया था, बल्कि इसलिए जिंदा है कि उसमें पंडित पलुस्कर साहब और आमिर खान साहब ने गाया था, इसलिए वो जिंदा है और हमेशा जिंदा रहेगा। और एक चीज ये अर्ज करूंगा कि बहुत से लोग ऐसे होते हैं जिनके जाने के बाद उनकी जगह भर जाती है, कोई दूसरा आके उस कुर्सी पर बैठ जाता है। लेकिन कुछ लोग ऐसे होते हैं कि जिनकी हमेशा जगह खाली रहती है। उनमें से डीवी पलुस्कर साहब भी है कि उनकी जगह आज तक खाली है और मेरे ख्याल से खाली रहेगी। और अफसोस ये है कि चल दिया वो इस जहां को छोड़कर गाता हुआ, अपने गीतों से भरी दुनिया को तड़पाता हुआ।
Paluskar's career started looking forward to the accomplishment of great heights and depth in his ordained mission. Yet all his life, the element of mystery seemed to be ever present, beginning with his birth and continuing even after his death. Mystery wearing a veil of beliefs and fears, faith and wishes. Just a few months before his death, he visited China as a member of the Indian cultural delegation, an offer which he had turned down twice before in deference to the wishes of his superstitious mother. But this third time when the offer was repeated, the mother reluctantly agreed and tragedy befell. Because it was in China that Paluskar contracted an infection which within a short time of his return fatally silenced his creative genius. October 26, 1955, on the celebrated day of Vijayadashami, the crossing of frontiers, the triumph of good over evil, symbolic of Lord Rama's victory over Ravana. Paluskar, an ardent worshipper of Lord Rama, breathed his last. How ironic that Paluskar's victory over the materialistic frontiers coincided with Rama's triumph over Ravana. Paluskar's Vijayadashami may be the end of his elemental existence, but his music will ever remain appealing and fascinating to the inner recesses of human consciousness.
यह थी मेरे मित्र पलुस्कर की कहानी। साधारण भाषा जहाँ समाप्त होती है, वहाँ आरंभ होती है नाद की शाश्वत और सार्वभौम भाषा। पलुस्कर का सारा जीवन नाद की गहराइयों की खोज में समर्पित था, जिसका सपना मैं सदा देखता रहा हूँ।